We had a session of Star Wars today before work. Over the Thanksgiving or Harvest Moon Festival we just had last weekend, we'd managed to do a 6-hour session, which revealed a lot of secret information to the player characters and revealed a lot of information to the non-player characters. And so, in the intervening days, a lot of planning between players was done so that, action could ensue right away in today's session. And ensue it did. There were very clear plans. People knew what they were going to do. And as they began to enact their plans, doubt began to creep in. Now, we're not talking about analysis paralysis, but plans had been made, and as actions start to take place, more information is, of course, revealed, more insight is gained, and what people wanted to do began to look less attractive. This, of course, led to discussion between characters, in character, about whether or not it should be done, if the risk was worth it, if in fact there was a risk at all. What benefit was there for doing certain things? And, the session had a lot of roleplay, but also had a lot of action, had a lot of problem solving, had some combat. It touched on a lot of major bases, but it also featured a lot of in-character arguments, some of which spilled over into the out-of-character realm. Not so much as an argument, but as a legitimate discussion. What are we doing here? And for some, this was perceived as a waste of playtime or a waste of game resources. From the point of view saying, the game master has prepared an encounter and we more than once have backed away from it. How does he feel about that? Or the game master is focusing a lot on producing the feeling of the genre of Star Wars, and we keep butting heads or coming into boundaries where none of us really feel like we're in that genre, or at least we have to ask ourselves the question, is this something we should do? And that's always one of my trigger questions. I don't like it when players are asking themselves from a story perspective what they should do. I love it when players, as their characters, are asking themselves what they should do from a decision perspective. Should I accept the contract or not? Should I throw my lot in with these adventurers? Should I take this risk or not? I love that. I don't like, in order to complete the story, what should I do? But that's me. And this game is not me. This game is a group effort. For the most part, I believe the group has enjoyed operating in what's basically a sandbox. There is a strong random element brought to us by the narrative dice, but those dice themselves are constrained by the genre of Star Wars, reinforcing and supporting that Star Wars feel, that indefinable Star Wars feel. But our actions, of course, are entirely free. There's no linear plot. They've not been dropped into an adventure module and moving one page to the next page from one encounter to another encounter, where there are defined and limited things that they can do to overcome the challenges they're in. They're in scenes that are described to seem or to suggest a certain reality from the films, so that with the right suspension of disbelief and the right imagination, the right refusal to accept the kind of annoying surroundings of the coffee shop in which we play, at least, for a moment, they might imagine themselves in a Star Wars film. At the same time, there have been numerous discussions about what we should do. which suggests that there is at least the habit, even if it's subconscious, that there should be some kind of story, some kind of linear flow to things, what's supposed to happen next, such as you would find in a video game, such as you would find in a prepared module, such as you would find in a less open, less loosely defined setting design, that the game master would be putting challenges in front of them which take them to the next challenge. So, this also sparks discussions about genre. Is torture okay? When we encounter a villain, shouldn't we just take him out as you would at your earliest opportunity in a video game, or as you would in your earliest opportunity in a different kind of milieu or a different kind of genre? Is it okay? And so the conversations we had afterward were things like, well, this particular character is being treated as an enemy, and so of course the combat characters in the group will want to propose violence against the enemy. That's what they're for. That's what they do. That's an in-character response. Whereas the more pacifistic characters, the explorers, the droid splicer, the charismatic captain, these kind of things, these characters do not see the problems as a military solution to be solved. They see them as, something to be finagled, something to be just avoided, something to be hacked. Everybody sees the solution differently. Of course, these are the character filters. There's also the player filters, different play styles, the way that they would approach things. Maybe this character is something that can be ignored, not treated as an enemy at all. Maybe if he's ignored, he'll just go away. Maybe he's actually an ally, just looking for a friend. Maybe he was a potential ally that was embarrassed, and so is reacting in a reactionary way, as you do when you react. And so, because there isn't any particular right thing to do, except in terms of in character, or except in terms of adhering to the genre that we agreed to, Star Wars, there's not a lot of guidance that I can give because of the way that I'm running the game. No plot. So the culture shock of no plot versus plot can mean that this kind of ambivalent or vague or lack of advice can be discouraging or alienating for those players who instinctually expect it, even though intellectually they know not to expect it. And I totally get that, because I get it the other way. When I play in other people's games and I find myself in a story, I have to fight my instincts to, do what is appropriate and start having to find the clues in the story that take it through to its best possible conclusion. So I was trying to think of an analogy. How could I stop talking about the thing and start better explaining the thing? And I was thinking about this while I was out walking with my dog, and I did film it. I was out with Sam, and it was kind of nice. We found a nice spot to film, but with all the traffic and whatnot, a lot of the audio was washed out. So what example I was able to draw from him is because, he's just a dog. He's instinctual rather than analytical. And when he's in a situation where he's left to his own devices, what does he do? He gets nervous. And he tries to find a way to better his situation. He expects anything and everything to actually be able to happen. He's open to all possibilities. He's sensing. He's investigating. He's putting himself in a position where he can collect more information so that he can bolster, protect, enhance his own comfort, his own level of calm. He's not seeking out danger. He's not actively avoiding danger either. He wants to know what's going to happen next. He's always collecting information, and then he's going to behave he's going to act or react appropriately. And that's, I feel, a good analogy for a player in a sandbox. They're not looking for this kind of other thing. What should I be doing? They're in the moment thinking, what should I be doing? Right? There's a gang coming at me. From the designed encounter point of view, this is something that I have to overcome in some way, such as running away or trusting that my level is high enough that I can overcome it. But from the no encounter design point of view, the only question to be asking is, if this were real, what would I do? For my dog Sam, that's his whole life. He's always real. He's never thinking of himself as another character. He will only ever be existing in the moment. And finding that moment for a player in a sandbox or an open and responsive world, this is the place that we need to find. To not be analyzing it in terms of what has the Game Master got in store, but analyzing it instead from what is this scene in which we are in? What's happening to my character, and how would they react in an internally consistent fashion, the way I've portrayed them so far? That's not the only way to play. It's not the right way or the wrong way or the alternate way to play. It's a way to play. It's my way to play. And it's the way this game is being run. Being able to communicate, being able to clarify, being able to share your mode of play with your players is not guaranteed. There's no guarantee that what you have said is really what has been gained on the other end, and no way to guarantee that what they have said back to you was understood the way that they meant it. Communication is an ongoing process. We don't get to speak with perfect clarity every time, all the time. Sometimes conversations need to take place multiple times before understanding is really met. And the last example I want to use to explain this is actually, hi, how are you? Pretty vapid language, pretty normal language, but if you look around you, you'll see people greeting each other with, hi, how are you? And then you'll see friends a few minutes later asking with more serious intent, so, how are you? And the real answer starts to come out. Setting up your game is not dissimilar to this. Hey, do you want to play a game? Selecting a game. Moving from that into defining a game, building characters, building setting, launching the game, adjusting the game, tweaking the characters, having conversations about, did you have fun today? On and on. It's an ongoing process, which I enjoy. And I hope my players do too.